What's up, family? What's going on, everyone? How is everyone doing today? I'm excited for today's new episode on the Connected Podcast with me, your boy, Cello Effect, Marcelo Pena. Today, we have another spectacular, extraordinary guest, my nephrologist, Dr. Joel Edward Bruce. This man has been my nephrologist for honestly more than 20 plus years. When I first was put on dialysis, he was one of the first doctors, nephrologists to foresee me, and take care of my care and all that type of stuff. So I'm excited. Ever since I got put on dialysis, he was one of the first doctors to oversee my care, and I'm excited to introduce this amazing human being, Dr. Joel Edward Bruce. So just give it a couple of minutes. He's going to tune in soon. I'm glad that he made a little bit of time in his busy schedule, for us to do this. And I'm just super excited. I really am. This is what this is for. This is why we're here, to open up the conversation and to just share with the world that, it's a beautiful thing when you have a great relationship with your dialysis team and with your doctors. So welcome, Dr. Joel Edward Bruce. How you doing, my brother?
All right. How you doing today? What's up?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. Thank you for doing this.
All right. I'm so happy to be able to join you tonight. I've been keeping up with your broadcast, and you're giving out a lot of good information. So, again, I feel very honored to be able to help contribute to what your audience is learning here. And you've been through quite a journey over the years. I guess we can say we've had quite a journey together.
Yeah.
So yeah, just glad I could be part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I was just letting the audience know, that you've been my nephrologist for most of my life. You've been
Yes.
with me through all the lows, and now we're experiencing some good highs together. And it's been such an amazing journey, Dr. Bruce. And I honestly, I want to say this. Not to kiss butt or kiss booty as kiss ass or nothing, but you have been there, and you have been just like an uncle, a father figure, as far as this dialysis and end-stage renal disease. You had my back, and you never judged me. You always just watched over me, and always had great energy. And I thank you for that.
Yes, I think again, I'm the same way about you. I think. One of the things that said it hit me early on was, you reminded me of my own sons. I think I said back in the day, my oldest son and you were, both of you about the same age and good artists. And I think that was one of the things that caught my attention early on, that you had a lot of skills, and you had your challenges, but, I always saw that, that good potential in you. And, we had our ups and downs back and forth. But again, it just feels so good to see you really reaching your potential and doing so well, as you and I were discussing last week. I mean, you had hit rock bottom, health-wise, 2 years ago.
Oh yes, 2 years ago. And I wanted to get into a little bit of your past, before we got into all that, because there's so much to cover, like honestly. But before we do get into that, because that's a lot of juicy information, it really is. But so what drove you to become a nephrologist?
I'm going to be honest, and in 1987 when I graduated med school, nephrology was not even on my list to do. In med school, pretty much all you see is people in the hospital. You only see the sickest of the sick, people. And I frankly was intimidated by nephrology at first. By happenstance, when I was doing my internship in residency up in Ohio, there was a nephrologist who came to help out because the regular nephrologist there had been, I think he had to go do an overseas assignment for the military for a while, and then he had basically gotten out of the military. So this guy was, he was somebody who in regular life I never would have sit down and talk to a lot. Really sort of just really generic guy, talk very kind of dry, not very much emotional, sort of your typical kind of egghead nerd type person.
Yeah.
But he and I hit it off because he too had gone to the University of Virginia. So we would sit around and, basically here we were, 1,000 miles away from there, but we can exchange some of the same sort of stories and experiences. So over time, he sort of started, let me see a little bit more about and talk to me a little bit more about nephrology. And as luck would have it, I majored in chemistry undergrad, and so much of nephrology is chemistry. And so it basically allowed me to use a lot of the skills that I learned from undergrad and understanding how the sodium, potassium, phosphorus, all those things move around in the body and with dialysis. And then he pointed out to me about how there's a inordinate number of people of color who have kidney disease, and I think back to it basically made a lot of sense to me. And over the years here now, it really has been. I've had many more family members who've been on dialysis. I've had friends, and I've met a lot of good people doing it. I feel so blessed to be able to do something that I enjoy doing at the level of having long-term relationships with patients like you. I mean, gosh, I literally see you, sometimes more in a year than I see my own sons. We basically, so when you were saying about, how you say you're almost like an uncle, well, you're almost like a nephew to me too. I can, I again experience your triumphs and your failures, your happiness and your sadness, and to see you always bounce back. I think that for anybody looking at this, please, basically, Marcelo did not, he's not some Johnny come lately who's just started reading about doing this. I mean, he's experienced it. He knows the lows of being on dialysis and other health problems. So, he has been, he's been like the old, the sword, the metal of the sword, basically trial by fire. He's been honed up, through a lot of tough times there. But he kept his head up, and he regrouped, and hey, now he's reaping the benefit of it for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. That was amazing. Perfect. I have experienced so much like this, and I guess that's a perfect segue, to let's go through the timeline, So we met probably, I would say, in 2002, around that time, and that's when I was first getting started on dialysis. I first started with PD. I don't know if I met you on PD or if it was in chemo. I can't really remember that.
You had just, I think, had gone in center, I want to say. Okay. I think I may have met you around the time you transitioned there, because I think you had been seeing the pediatric nephrologist, and then I kind of took over from there.
Yes, exactly. And, it was such a new world for me. Everything happened so fast. The transplant just didn't take because of the FSGS, which you're an expert in. And I didn't know much about it. Now I know a lot about the focal segmental glomerulosclerosis and the scarring of the kidneys and all that, but the journey, it so much had happened, and I'm not going to lie, as a kid, you just want to do kid things. And I was a knucklehead to a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? I didn't know how serious the situation was, you know what I mean? And things did start going downhill very, very fast. I had numerous catheters in my chest. I remember the surgery when they had to do my parathyroid, and they told me if I didn't have that happen, that I would die. And when it did happen, the surgeon didn't really suture it all the way in, then it did internal bleeding, and that almost killed me. So, it was just so much that just started to hit me. And you know what the crazy thing, Dr. Bruce? When this happened, and I was actually getting some, because I had my braces around that time, or I was getting some mouth work done. So I had an infection in my mouth. And then they did this surgery, and it like fed to that, right?
Yeah.
So, but the crazy thing, this almost killed me. And then 2 weeks after this, the kidney, the donor kidney that my mom gave me was still inside of my body. And then I was back into the hospital, because of my high temperature and infection, and no one knew what was going on. And then just again, you're almost dying. They even told my mom, you got to get ready for his first funeral because I don't think he's gonna make it. They thought I had cancer and all type of stuff. So, I mean, what I would like to know, what were your thoughts around this time? Because it's funny when you're living it and you're experiencing it, but it's also, I like to hear other people's perspectives from the outside. I mean, because sometimes I think, what if I wasn't strong enough, or what if I wasn't young enough, and it would just be another name to the books.
Well, I think that, clearly, the reasons that you were able to survive this is the same reasons that you were rather rebellious at that time. Is that you're young, you've been through a fair bit health wise, and you bounce back, and you got that feeling that you're invincible. And it's, to some degree, I mean, when you're young, your body does take a joke a lot better than if you were my age or even in your 30s or so. And so that's where a lot of times, young patients get caught up, and a lot of times they don't make it because they have. I mean, I think you were fortunate. You had a lot of good physicians that were working with you, and you had your family support, there, and I mean, and then by the grace of God, so that, for sure. I mean, some of this stuff it could have taken you out. Again, when you had the parathyroidectomy, you had some bleeding there. That's up around your windpipe, so that certainly could be a problem. The problems you had from that kidney rejecting and how it was poisoning your system, a lot of times it does. It almost behaves like a cancer because it's slowly rejecting and it's poisoning your system. And it can really, it can do a person in. I've seen people get sick to the point where they basically lose 20 pounds. Those kidneys, and I have seen them rupture. They get swollen from the rejection, and I have seen them literally crack open from the swelling, and a person can bleed to death that way. So you're not far off of saying about how you could have left here multiple times back then. But again, I think that you bounce back each time, and that was when you were really into your artwork and stuff then, and that was kind of the link that let me always know that there was something deep there. Sometimes you see people acting on knucklehead, and they got. It's just all you see is just craziness. There's no calmness, but when you used to do your artwork, I knew that there was a calmness there and things that it's like, okay, let's try to help him get through this phase here and come out the other end. And thank goodness you're able to do it. And I've talked to your sister before about some of this. Your parents, for sure, and it's just so good to see any of my young patients as they mature. I've seen some that go from same rebellious like you were to getting married, having kids. Next time I see them, they're wearing suits, to work and things, and I can joke with them about it and say, hey, as you and I joke sometimes about some of your events back when you were in your late teens and early 20s.
Oh yeah. I used to actually have I remember you laugh at this one. I had a a crazy relationship, a crazy girlfriend that would actually come with me at dialysis like early in the morning. It would be snowing outside, and she would just sit in the car. And Dr. Bruce knows I almost lost my leg because of this girl. You know, there was just so much that happened, you know, not just dialysis and kidney stuff. It was just all over the place. And you're right, through the grace of God, I tapped into the calmness that was always inside of me. You know, you're absolutely right on that, dead on. And I mean, but people just don't really understand. When I talk about my story and just the constant just beating, it was just a constant beating that just did not end, you know, until honestly, until about, I'm 34 now, until I was about 30, 31, you know, 30, 31 years old. And so the time period, there was a short period where me and Dr. Bruce, we didn't connect anymore. It was because I moved out of state. I actually moved out of state because of the heaviness going on with just the lifestyle I was living that time, the ex that I was talking about. It was just very toxic and very negative. So I decided to get out of Charlotte and move to Houston, Texas. And I stayed there for about 5-6 years. So, you know, me and Dr. Bruce didn't have that relationship anymore. But when I came back to Charlotte, it was just like we picked up where we left off. You know what I mean? We picked up where we left off. And that's where things just kicked up a notch, because the plan was for me to move back to Hawaii, you know, because that's when I went to Hawaii. I did the 9-day water fast, and I saw a lot about holistic medicine along with integrative medicine, just working with both sides. And but it fell through for whatever reason, right? And then I fell into my depression. I fell back into the streets and into the depressive states, you know. So the reason why I brought that up was because one of those instances, it drove me to the hospital, and then I'm in the hospital, and I caught C. diff. So C. difficile. If people don't know, can you explain what that is a little bit more, you know, professionally?
Yes. You know, for everybody's probably heard about how your body has good bacteria in it, you got bad bacteria, and they serve a purpose. They help, you know, digest your food. They actually help in creating some of the vitamins that your body needs as well. I think that you can kind of make your GI tract kind of analogous to a nice grassy lawn. So when your lawn's right, you got all your good grass there, and everything's looking good. But say something, you know, there's always a little bit of weed there. You know, it's usually very little. You can go and pick them out one at a time, or it's just so little you don't even notice it. Yeah. But say something happens like a drought, or somebody puts something on your lawn that burns it and kills off the good grass. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what happens with what antibiotics can do to your intestines. Is the antibiotics used for treating, say, a pneumonia or something, can also kill off the good bacteria in your intestines. So instead of having that nice green lawn, all of a sudden you got a lawn that basically all you get is dirt and some weeds showing up. And if you don't get that grass growing again, you know, what's going to take over? The weeds take over. And C. diff is in everybody's body, but it's a weed bacteria. It's not a good bacteria. And so once you kill off those good bacteria, the weeds take over. And that's what happened to you was, you know, the weeds took over, and it makes you sick, because it looks like, you know, when you look in there, you know, it's this coating of basically nothing but slime for the C. diff, and your body can't absorb your calories. You know, you're basically going to chronically get diarrhea. I mean, everything you eat just kind of goes through you because your body can't absorb it because of this. So again, just imagine your yard with nothing but dandelions and other weeds taking over, and you see no good grass. That's what happened to you.
Yeah, I love that, and that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, because my health was just on the negative side of things, I caught it. I don't know. I probably caught it maybe 5, 6, 7 times. It was just nonstop, and it got so bad that I actually had to have a fecal transplant. So that's where, you know, I mean, it break down the word. They actually had to put healthy poop inside of me, you know, and that's what amazes me about just Western medicine and what we have come to, you know what I'm saying? Because I've never got C. diff after that. After they after they put, you know what I'm saying, healthy poop inside of me, I have been, you know, back to normal. It was a necessary thing that needed to happen. Um, but that did, you know, all the C. diff and the antibiotics and the pain medicine, because it was honestly, this probably kept going on for about, I would say, from 2015 all the way till 2018. Just kept
Yes.
going, just kept going, you know, and every month it just happened. It happened. I mean, what were your thoughts throughout that? Because that was the time that I was transitioning from in-center dialysis to back to you to go to home hemodialysis.
Right.
And
Yeah. I mean, you know, outside of, of course, those cases where something happened around the time of surgery or when that kidney was rejected, that was definitely the worst I'd ever seen you. I mean, there were times you couldn't make it. You know, you didn't stay home for a week before you ended up right back in the hospital. Having pain in your stomach, fevers. I mean, it was just a never-ending story, for you. And again, you had just gotten. I mean, you were pale, you were thin. It was. I mean, you couldn't hold a conversation like this because you were just too weak and just always in a lot of pain. And unfortunately, as healthcare goes, for people who didn't know you, people, started wondering, well, is it pain seeking or whatever? And thing I knew that you can't fake C. diff. You either have it or you don't. You don't. You can't fake that. That test for sure. I think that the thing that always worried me at the time for you was the fact that the C. diff kept coming back, which showing how weakened your body was. That basically, you couldn't fight off the weeds. I mean, you couldn't establish a normal lawn in your body anymore. I mean, that's how weakened your body had gotten, for sure. And it was worrisome, there. I've seen people your age lose 25 pounds in 1 month from C. diff. So that that's because everything's just going right through them. So back then, you didn't have 25 pounds to lose. I don't think you probably didn't even have 5 pounds you really could afford to lose back then.
no,
But again, I think it was a combination of the fecal transplant, which was kind of analogous to just bringing a truck and putting down sod in the yard, and versus trying to grow it from seed, there. And it worked in association with you getting stronger and changing up your overall diet and just getting really serious about what you were putting in you, getting yourself physically stronger, mentally stronger. You just did a total makeover.
yeah, I did. I didn't want to keep feeling like I was dying. It's so scary when you actually see death, and that's something that I will never forget. When you can see like the shadow crowding in on you, and and every time I would see you guys, I would see how worried you would be, and then that would make me a little bit worried, but then it would also make me be like, no, there's something more. There has to be something more to this. And then the fecal transplant was a game changer. It helped tremendously, but along with, like you said, the diet, when I just changed my lifestyle and focused on just breathing, learning how to breathe correctly, and learning about, plant-based foods, and paying attention to this. I worked very closely with you and Diane, the dietitian, to just figure out what can work, and just got to the point where I was like, I'm so tired of being sick and tired. So I I'm just happy that it all worked out, and for a period there, I felt like I was out. You know, I was in the clear. I went 5 months without being admitted to the hospital. That was the first time after the C. diff thing. That was the first time I was like working out. 5 months of not being in the hospital. I was like, wow, I never done this in my life. Like, I feel amazing. And then we go to the beach on June 11th, on my mother's birthday, 2019. I'm at the beach, and I haven't been to the beach in probably, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years. And later on that night, I ate some food that I shouldn't have ate, you know, some Subway and some hamburgers. And Dr. Bruce, I tell you, out in the middle of the night, there was just this pain that just shot in my gut. And I was like, whoa, what is that? It felt like I had to go to the bathroom, but nothing was coming out, you know, and it felt strange because you feel like you really got to go to the bathroom and you're pushing, but it's not working. And then I get rushed to the hospital, and come to find out, my intestines perforated inside of me. They literally blew up inside of me. And later I was told that was probably because of the C. diff and the antibiotics and just the years of pain medicine. And, you know, because I was on some heavy things, Dr. Bruce. I even remember, you know, other doctors came into my room numerous times, and they're like, you're on the highest dose of, you know, antibiotics. Like, this is not good, for years. And, you know, that if anything that I've been through, many things should have took me out. Many things should have just been the end for Marcelo Pena, Cello effect, and all of this. And I truly believe that this one was one of the main ones. You know, I mean, how serious, from a professional in your standpoint, how serious is it that to happen to somebody? You know, even knowing everything that I've been through prior.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, thank goodness you had a few months of recovery from the C. diff and got stronger before this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you perforate, you know, your colon, you know, basically what happens is, you know, stool is in your abdomen.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is life-threatening, because I mean, all those bacteria, all the germs are right there, just in your abdomen. You know, you develop abscesses. And remember, this is similar to what happens, and why, you know, back in the day, people died of appendicitis so often. It's the same net effect. And appendix, the thing would rupture and do the same thing. So basically, what you had was a large form of a ruptured appendix, basically. And that could have easily done you in. I remember when I got the message that what had happened, and you know, you know, all I could say was damn. It's like, you know, I was worried. I mean, I was really, you know, worried because that was a dead serious situation there. You know, for sure. And again, I think the C. diff over the years, it basically, you know, it thinned out your colon wall, and so that when you eat that food that upset it, you know, it didn't take much to cause an area of the wall that was thin to just tear open.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty basically what happened there. But I mean, I'm still amazed to this day how well you bounced back from that one.
Thank you.
That was, you know, that actually may have been your most life-threatening situations there. One you were kind of out in the middle of nowhere type place at the beach when it happened, and then you were just coming off of, you know, years of C. diff.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm just going through the memories and the feelings and the emotions, and you're right. That's the word, is damn. You know, it is damn. But I look at it. It was all a learning lesson. Everything that I've been through was to get me to this point, and just to be the person that I was meant to be. You know, to share with people that if you work with your dialysis team, if you work with your doctors, if you pay attention to them, to what they're saying, and also to your own body, that you can just triumph. You could be triumphant. And you know what I'm saying? And there's one analogy that you gave me before, and I loved it. If you wouldn't mind sharing it, it was the one with "Don't fight against the current." You know what I mean? I love that
Yeah,
so much because it's on point.
yeah. I mean, I tell a lot of particularly young patients that dialysis is a lot like swimming. When you learn to swim, there's a couple things you have to do. One is obviously you have to have a healthy respect for the water, and two, you cannot fight the water if you're going to swim. And dialysis is the same way. You have to have a healthy respect that it's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
Without dialysis, you will die. And at the same time, you cannot fight it. Is that you got to go with it. You need your dialysis. There's certain things you have to do diet wise related to that. You just got to do it if you want to do well. It's just like swimming. You got to relax when you're in the water. You can't fight it. You got to be able to do that to be able to swim. If you get in there fighting and everything, you're gonna sink like a rock. And that's dialysis. If you don't do what you need to be doing, think you can get by not doing your treatments, think you can get by, cheating on your diet all the time, it will catch up with you and you will slowly sink. So yeah, I think, but thanks for pointing that one out. But yeah, for anybody on dialysis, remember that.
Yeah.
You got a healthy respect for it, and you can't fight it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. So anybody out there, if you have tension or if you're trying to fight it, don't, let go. Just let go, and I mean, you have people out there that are willing to help you. You have people, you just have to, don't be so combative, don't be so combative. And so that's that. Thank you for saying that. I love that. I'll always remember that in my mind. I really will, because at one point in time I was fighting the current. it was taking me downstream. So not anymore. Not anymore. But I did want to touch on. So you specialize in home hemodialysis here in Charlotte, North Carolina. That you're the mero. That's how you say it in Spanish. The main man, el mero. You know what I mean? You're the one that people got to come to, and you know what I mean? So can you describe to people the difference between doing in-center dialysis and then home hemo? I mean, it's night and day. For
Yeah.
someone that does it, it's night and day.
Yeah, I mean, with the next stage platform, that's really been a game changer for doing home dialysis. Back when I first learned dialysis back in the late 1980s, early 90s, we just had the regular hemo machines that you could use at home, which was still 3 times a week, that sort of thing. Next stage came along, and it really is a fundamentally different form of dialysis. And the analogy I came up with is, again, dialysis is cleaning your house. It's cleaning your body, your blood of the toxins. So you can make it analogous to cleaning your house. Now, you can go in and clean your house rapidly 3 times a week. And it can look pretty good, but if you really start going around there and looking under beds and that sort of thing, you're gonna find dust bunnies, food that you didn't find, down in the cushions of the seats and everything. There's a lot of things that you missed because you were trying to do it rapidly. While home hemo with the next stage platform is you're going in there and you can say, okay, we're gonna do this a little bit more frequency. We're gonna clean the house instead of 3 times a week. We're gonna clean the house 4 or 5 times, and we're gonna do it a little bit slower. And then you look up and say, oh my goodness, you look, your windows are cleaned and no streaks. You look at your couch. There's no breadcrumbs or a piece of crust or anything, in your cushions or under your bed. You basically you don't have ants or anything.
Yeah.
You basically done it the right way. Unfortunately, so many people have, I call it, get institutionalized to the idea of going in center, doing it 3 times a week. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I just go in there and not do it X number of hours. I got to do it long if I do it at home, whatever. But, that time is well spent as far as being able, for what your health is. And if you can't invest time in your health and your life, I mean, what are you going to invest your time and effort into? For sure. For you, you have not been on blood pressure medicines in quite a while.
For a while, yeah.
Which is very remarkable for any kind of dialysis patient to not be on blood pressure meds at all. I've seen it happen numerous times. Patients who supposedly had basically difficult to control high blood pressure when you were doing in-center. We bring them over on the next stage platform, and sometimes even during the first couple of weeks of training, the blood pressure gets better. You start backing off of medicines, and largely what you're doing is you're being able to get more of that fluid and salt out of their system, and with that, the blood pressure comes down. Because remember, a bunch of fluid in your bloodstream is like putting water in a balloon. The more water you put in the balloon, the higher the pressure goes. So if you can get that water out of that balloon, you can really make a difference. And again, I've had patients lose 20 pounds off of their dry weight going from in-center to next stage. And it's because we were able to clean the blood slower and be able to get to that weight, because everybody's different. Not everybody's body will give up that fluid and salt rapidly. And you just running them for 4 hours 3 times a week, you can't get to that because the body doesn't want to give it up that fast. So you do it shorter, more frequently. Over time, you can kind of peck away at the sodium and fluid and really make a difference, there. And again, 20 pounds of fluid, carrying around an extra 20 pounds of fluid day in and day out for sometimes years. It's amazing, that the heart even tolerated it. And they'll tell you, I feel, I used to feel kind of bloated and just a little, I won't call it short of breath, but I just kind of felt like I was out of shape. And once they get that fluid off of them, they say, oh, I feel so much better. My breathing's better. I don't feel bloated, that sort of thing. And it is. Some people can hide 20 pounds of fluid. They don't have any swelling. They don't have any heart failure. You listen to their lungs. Their heart is strong enough that the heart just pump, being a good soldier, pumping all that extra fluid around. But if you do it long enough, your heart will tire out over time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
But that's the major difference is and you think about it, your kidneys work 24/7. So again, if there's a way that you clean your blood that may not be 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but you get closer to it than 3 times a week, for 3 or 4 hours, it makes sense that you should do better with it.
Oh yeah, you can feel it. Now you can feel it. When I was going in center, I would always feel so drained. I would always call it zombie mode. As soon as you get off the machine, you want to eat some food and go to sleep. And it was just a very vicious cycle, because as soon as I would sometimes sleep throughout the day, like a whole day, and then I would wake up and have to come back to in-center to do it all over again. So this has just been a complete life-changing thing for me. And I love that I'm able to even eat more. My diet's changed a little bit more. I can eat more freely. I still watch, and I take my binders, of course. But even my fluid intake, I'm able to drink a little bit more fluid. The crazy thing is that I've been on dialysis for so long that I'm trained now. Like, I'm institutionalized with my fluid intake, because I don't even drink as much as I know I could. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time that we've had to tell you about drinking too much fluid. where with understanding your diet, where you've gotten with phosphorus. I mean, people listening, I mean, this guy could, he could pop a 12 or a 15 on the phosphorus, like nothing. And, now it's, he's, he knows what his body, phosphorus, what sources are not good for him and what works for him, binder wise. But, again, the biggest thing is Marcelo understands his diet, now what works for him, what does not work for him. And I think that, that's what everybody, if you're on dialysis, you have to figure out, what works for you, versus someone else. It's, you really got to put that time in, and, there's no secret recipe that said, okay, I'm going to do it just like him. Everybody's body is a little bit different, there. You just got to figure it out, pay attention to what you're doing and figure out, there. And, gosh, I mean, it's been a long journey. But Marcelo's really, he has put a lot of time into that, and, getting advice from us on what to try, what not to try. But again, which brings up the point, whatever you do, you coordinate it with your doctors and your dietitians, because sometimes this stuff may sound good, but some things are just absolutely you can't do when you're on dialysis, supplement wise, and other things it may work for you, it may not work for you. You have to, you basically need to let your doctor and your dietitian know what you're thinking about doing or doing, so that if anything goes crazy with your labs, they can say, oh, okay, yeah, we need to back off that or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. You gotta, again, it's a team effort. It's a team effort. You gotta treat it like that. Don't ever do anything on your own. And I'm always telling that to everybody, everyone that I talk to that reaches out for help or whatever. This is what I'm doing, but always make sure if you want to learn about whatever it is that I'm doing, you have to run it by your nephrologist and your dialysis team, because they're the experts, they're the professionals. I'm not going to take the time to, I haven't took the time. I haven't been educated in that, so I can only go so far. But, there are things that we can do, when we pay attention to our body, and, because if the body's in pain or if you're feeling something, that's its way of communicating with you. That's the body's way of saying, something's wrong. We got to do something. And, you got to talk to your team, always talk to your team. So that's, there's one thing I did want you to touch on, because there's a few people that I talk to in these, groups that I'm always a part of. And they always ask me, why aren't you going to get another kidney transplant, Marcelo? What's the issue? And people don't understand how aggressive focal segmental glomerulosclerosis can be. If you can, because I remember you told me about that, when y'all did the little Petri thing,
Yes.
Okay, talk about that, because that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. FSGS, focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, is a kidney condition that actually it can be associated with several other conditions as well. It's basically driven by an overactive immune system. We've seen it associated with certain cancers. We've seen it associated with certain medicines, and the majority of the cases, it's associated with just an overactive immune system. Mm-hmm. Now, within that overactive immune system, there's a subset of patients, and they're typically young patients. You don't see this in older patients. I mean, once you get up to 20 years old, if you don't develop this out of the blue at that age. But what happens is that there's a kind of an antibody that your body produces. It's a protein that the body produces. This protein is toxic to the part of your kidney that helps filter the protein, to keep the protein from entering your when your kidneys filter the liquid portion of your blood. There's part of the kidney that keeps the protein from leaking into the urine, called the podocyte. And it sits down on the kidney filter, and it helps repel protein, so the protein doesn't cross that filter and go into your urine. It stays in your bloodstream. Well, this particular abnormal protein produced by the immune system attacks those podocytes, and it basically causes them to wither up and die. And in fact, they've been able to isolate the serum of young people who've had this condition, and it basically, you can take those little podocytes and you can grow them in a little petri dish, and they should look a certain way. They have little fingers on them, the cells, and those little fingers sit down on the kidney filter to help repel the protein to keep it in your bloodstream. Well, if you take someone's blood, like for example, if I took your blood and took the serum portion where the antibodies are and mixed it with a culture of these podocytes, those podocytes basically wither up, the little finger things just disappear, and those cells basically, it's like putting it's analogous to putting salt on a snail. I think everybody's done that when they were little kids, and you remember what this poor snail did when the salt hit them. I mean, that's what happens when that serum hits those podocytes. They start withering up, and over time they'll die. And that's what happens with this condition. I saw a young patient who had this and was getting a kidney, and in the operating room, they typically when they hook your kidney up, when they unclamp it, the blood immediately starts going through the kidney, and you start making urine. Well, in this particular child, they unclamped it, and sure enough, it immediately started making urine. And guess what? The urine was foamy almost immediately. So basically, as soon as that child's blood hit that kidney, it started damaging those podocytes immediately. And again, that was the end of that kidney. Most people, it's not that extreme. Obviously, that person had a high level of those antibodies, but it's the same net effect. Even if you have a low grade, it's going to happen over time as well. But this is there's been a lot of research about this and figuring out. Obviously, the answer is if we can stop the production of this antibody, and it's a very frustrating thing because it is. If you have it, there's some research going on trying to prevent it from happening, but it's devastating for sure. So you've been aware of that, and for you, again, thank goodness, here now, we've kind of got you in a happy place, with dialysis, and thank goodness you're young, and since we're making so many more progress in immunologic conditions and things, hopefully in a few years we'll be able to block that protein so that you can get a transplant. But in the meantime, again, you're making chicken soup out of chicken crap. You basically are making you're making the most of your life here, because a lot of people, some people are just going to, I can't do that. I can't. Yeah, hey, it's transplant's not a guarantee, for anybody, and for all of you out there. I did transplant nephrology for quite a few years. Always remember that transplant's a treatment, just like dialysis is. So any treatment that you receive has risk, it has benefits, and for the individual, there's certain obligations that you have. You got to taking medicines, that sort of thing. The potential side effects of the medicine, all those things are still there. So you have to be be willing to understand that, there. So you don't. I've had people who put their whole emotional being on getting transplanted. Then the transplant doesn't go well, and then they just crash. So I always tell patients, I never talk a person into getting transplanted. I say, look, I think you should look at this closely, but you've got to be, in it into, for those peaks and valleys, for sure.
Absolutely. I love how you just said that and described that, because it's a reality. It is a reality, and I mean, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future, because you have so many doctors like Dr. Atala here in Wake Forest, who's doing that organ, like the kidney that he's creating, the 3D printed kidney. You have Harvard University that's actually doing stem cells inside of FSGS kidney. So it's like there's so many things, and the Kidney Project. I don't know if you heard of that one, but that's it's don't look at it being so gloomy and depressing. There's always hope, and there's always something that you can do, because let's say you are going to get a transplant, but you're going to want to change your lifestyle a little bit before you get that transplant. You're not going to just want to eat hamburgers and drink soda and then, think because you got a transplant, or now I could drink beer now I could live my life the way I want to. No, you have to. It's a responsibility. You're getting life again, and not everyone has that opportunity. So be aware of that, like Dr. Bruce said.
Right. Yeah, and you just hit on a major point. Is that it is? I mean, there are certain behaviors that you just you can't even think about doing if you shouldn't want to be doing them even if you're on dialysis. But it becomes important because, as I mentioned, that if you get transplanted, there are medicines you're going to have to take. And if you're being real lax with taking your medicines before you get transplanted, it's you don't turn those behaviors on and off. If you're lax and taking medicine now, you're gonna be lax in the future. So you've got to prepare yourself to be successful. And it's like, okay, I got to take my medicine the way I'm supposed to. I got to get used to going to the lab on certain days. It's just like you need to make sure you see your doctor every month. Those sort of things you have to do. Being on dialysis, it's the same thing after transplant. You need to do those things, because I've seen too many sad stories. Patients after they get transplanted, they get lax, they start missing appointments, and sure enough, sooner or later they show up sick at the hospital with the kidney function in bad shape from rejection. So yes, you just have to remember, if you're on dialysis, you need to make sure that you're setting yourself up lifestyle-wise, health-wise, to be able to get transplanted.
Absolutely.
And again, if you don't get transplanted, there's still a great world of things you can do. I mean, look at Marcelo here. I've had many patients. I've had patients who were on dialysis, 30 years, and they didn't want to get transplanted. They were happy with what they were doing. It's again, life is what you want to make, what you make out of it.
Beautiful. I love that. Dr. Bruce, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out to do this. Before we leave, is there anything that you're working on, or where, if people want to ask you questions, you have an email, or where can they find you at?
Yeah, I think that any particular questions you have, you can contact me through jbruce@nephrology.com. At some point when you cast, you can put that up. It's probably the best way to go. I think that for everyone out there, one of the things that I'm working on, and you and I have talked and done a little bit, is just coming up with some educational materials for individuals that really speak in language, that is easy to understand, because this is a lot of stuff to be hitting people with. And then if you make it too complicated in medical terms and everything, you just turn people off. So again, trying to get the word out there, in language that's easy to understand, easy to digest, and easy to keep with you. That's my biggest thing. And one final thing I want everybody to, if you have kidney conditions, remember that your relationship with your doctor and your team, it's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, I said, now I'm the coach. I tell the patients what plays to go run. They got to run the play. So if you're successful, it's not on me. I just drew up the play and gave you the practice to go out here and do well. Mm-hmm. It's up to you as a patient to do the right things. To follow the script that your coaches, your doctor, your nurses, your social worker, etc., draw up for you. It's a team effort, always.
Always, 100%. I'm glad that you touched on that, because this is the actual book that me and Dr. Bruce are working on right here. 5 stages of end-stage renal disease for the people that can see. That's going to be in the store near you soon. Illustrations by Marcelo Pena, yours truly. So amazing. I thank you so much, Dr. Bruce, for doing this again. And, we're probably going to have to do a part 2. You're probably going to get a lot of questions and just people wanting more from you, because this is amazing. So thank you so much. And, we'll be connected. We'll be communicating for sure.
Hey, thanks for allowing me to be a part of your journey.
Absolutely. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. Good night.
All right.